Between the New York Knicks playing a monstrous Game 5 at Madison Square Garden, between the New York Mets throwing up all over themselves last night and today, and of course what happened at Madison Square Garden last night with the Rangers, these are tense times. And look, after watching the Rangers last night, especially that decrepit third period, I will say this to you, Tiki Barber. I do not believe that the New York Rangers are going to be the fifth team in the history of the National Hockey League to blow a 3-0 lead. I do not believe that. With that said, there are some warning signs that a collapse or a choke is on us.
Wow.
Can I give you those signs?
Yes, please. I agree with you, but continue.
Okay. Because I just want to be honest. Like, my gut feeling says they're not blowing a 3-0 lead. That's just my gut feeling. But I think that we need to be fair. We need to be honest with ourselves. We need to look at what's happened over the last two games and throughout this series and ask ourselves, maybe it is happening. And the reason I bring that up, and look, I'm not trying to be a bad guy with this, and I apologize to New York Yankee fans. You're going to face a lot of shrapnel today and tomorrow, and it's not your fault. 3-0 collapses are rare in sports.
Yes.
It's happened 4 times in the history of the NHL. It's happened 1 time in the history of Major League Baseball. And so I'm sorry. Yeah, 3-0 Yankees, Red Sox in 04 is going to be brought up because it's our frame of reference. We're not talking about the Kings and the Sharks from 2014 or the Bruins and the Flyers from 2010. I'd bring up Islanders Penguins from 1975, but here's the problem. I was -8. I don't even think Tiki was born yet. So, unfortunately, 04 is the frame of reference. And while I was watching the collapse of 04, I don't think I realized it was happening until it was happening. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, when the Red Sox came back and won Game 4, I didn't think it was happening. When the Red Sox won Game 5, I didn't think it was happening. I think I didn't realize it was happening until the bloody sock of Curt Schilling and the A-Rod smacking Bronson Arroyo's glove. So here we are at this moment in time where the Rangers are still up 3-2, and some of us may think the collapse is happening, some may not. But here are the signs that the collapse is happening. Number 1, when these two teams have played at even strength this entire series, the Carolina Hurricanes have been the better team. They've outscored them 11-9 at even strength. That has been the story since all the way back, even in Game 1. That's a negative sign. That's number 1.
Yes.
Number 2. Going back to Game 1, the Carolina Hurricanes have outshot the New York Rangers or have been even in shot attempts in every period and overtime frame since the second period of Game 1. 13, 0, and 2 in the 15 periods of hockey that the Rangers and the Hurricanes have played. Carolina has outshot the New York Rangers. That's just a fact. Mm-hmm. That's just a fact.
Yeah, those are numbers.
Those are numbers. You can't argue them.
Right. You can't argue the numbers. And I won't argue the numbers because I think it's bigger or more, something more important than numbers. Now, I don't know Peter Laviolette. Never met him. I know who he is. I know who he is. Know what his career was like as a player, then as a manager. But at certain points, your team starts to, like, relax.
Take the foot off the gas.
Yeah, theoretically, right? Or whatever you want to say. It feels like this Ranger team, while still winning a fair amount of face-offs, while still crushing it on the penalty kill, because they didn't score again on, I don't think they had 3 opportunities, but whatever it is.
Carolina Hurricanes have had 1 power play goal in this entire series.
Exactly.
It came from the former Ranger Brady Shea at the end of Game 4.
Right.
That's it. They are 1 for 20 on the power play.
Right. So like, you can throw all the numbers, and the fundamentals still sound, all right, this is still the Rangers team. It's the same Rangers team that won the first 3 games. But there's a little something extra that is required for moments like what the Rangers are facing. Up 3-0, now up 3-2, or 3-1, then up 3-2. There is a killer instinct you have to have. And so much of that has to originate from the coach. It has to originate from the guy who speaks to everyone. Not just, hey, Shesterkin, make sure you do this, X, Y, Z. Hey, whoever, do X, Y, Z. It has to come and disperse throughout the entire room. And if that's not being done, it's easy to get comfortable. And right now, when I watch the Rangers, it feels like they were a little bit comfortable.
Well, in the third period, they were.
They took a 1-0 lead in this game. And it's like, all right, we got this. We no matter what happens, we're good.
And think about how they got the 1-0 lead.
Yeah, shorthanded.
Again, shorthanded.
Right.
They've scored more shorthanded goals on Carolina's power play than the Canes have scored power play goals.
Exactly. But there's that killer instinct that is necessary.
Well,
and it's not there.
Well, you know what scares me about that? So I have 7 things that are warning signs of a collapse. I mentioned being outshot. I mentioned the even strength. One of the other things, and this is not on Coach Laviolette because he wasn't here for it, is that this core of New York Rangers, they have a resume. And you know what their resume features? 2 collapses.
Yeah.
Let's just speak real here. Now, it's not a 3-0 collapse, but they have had 2 collapses. We have to call it like it is. When the New York Rangers had a lead in Game 3 up 2-0 on the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they blew that series, what was it? Call it by its name. It was a collapse. And the reason we didn't probably scream it into the air back then was because the Rangers had such a great ride. They got to the conference finals. It was such a surprise. It was such a fun ride that you don't want to say that about a team like that. But now, 2 years later, when you look back at what happened in that series against Tampa Bay, you can call it for what it was. They had that series won. They had a chance to step on them, and they failed, and they let them off the hook. Now, Tampa Bay is a cup-winning dynastic team. I understand that, and maybe that's why we didn't think about it at the time. But they collapsed 2 years ago. That's a fact. Now we go to last year. Last year against the New Jersey Devils, they had them. We all thought they had him. Sean whipped out a broom. Even Boomer, who doesn't want to touch the money, thought they had him. We all thought they had him. And they let him off the hook. And they collapsed against the New Jersey Devils. So this court, different head coach. So I'm not putting on Coach Laviolette. This core, this roster has a resume, maybe not a blowing a 3-0 lead, not a lot of teams do, but has a resume of blowing leads. That's another warning sign, if you will, that a collapse may be upon us. You can't deny those 2 things. You can't deny what happened 2 years ago against Tampa, and you certainly can't deny what happened a year ago against the New Jersey Devils. Here's the other thing, because I got more. And I know it's crazy. You're probably listening saying, so, Evan, you just think they're going to collapse. I don't. But these are the warning signs that we can't ignore. The Ranger power play, which was such a strength early in this postseason, that's collapsed. Since Vinny Trocheck's game winner in Game 2, the New York Rangers are 0 for 8 with the man advantage. Their power play has been soft. It's been weak. They haven't got enough good shots on net.
Yeah, but
it hasn't been that same strength it was over the first 5-6 games of this postseason.
Well, yeah, but you saw it in Game 3. Game 3 was the reason that they took a 3-0 lead.
Yeah.
So you know it's there.
Sure.
And so, it's little things, man. It's like it's the effort in that last moment. It's that perfect pass at that what seems like an inopportune but perfect moment. Those little things are the difference between winning and losing in any sport. But I feel like with this Rangers team, I don't want them to become a bully team. I don't think that's their DNA, except for maybe Matt Rempe, but he gets 8 minutes or 6 minutes on the ice, so it doesn't matter.
I don't think he played bad in the 6 minutes he was out there yesterday.
I was not even talking about that. But maybe they need a little bully.
Yeah. Maybe he needs to punch someone in the face.
Seriously.
Specifically Tony DeAngelo.
They need a little aggression, a little, we are better than you. I know everybody, because of a reason, the Hurricanes keep being the favorite.
Well, they're a good team.
There's one team that won the President's Trophy and one that didn't.
I know, but it wasn't by a lot. We have to keep that in mind.
It doesn't matter.
It's not like the Rangers were 20 points ahead of them.
It doesn't matter. But the only way you get that respect, whether it's on the ice or whether it's from the bookmakers or whether it's from the fans or whoever it's from, is by showing that you are the bully.
Right.
And the Rangers aren't doing that. And without it, that little edge that it feels like they had, whether it was in the penalty kill or was in the power play, it feels like it's waning.
Well, I'll give you another edge they lost last night, and yet another sign that the choke's on us. Another sign that maybe we are witnessing a collapse, even if we don't realize we're witnessing a collapse. When the New York Rangers faced the Carolina Hurricanes 2 seasons ago, they did in the second round of the postseason. As you may recall, that was a home series. The home team won every game until Game 7. until the Rangers went down to Raleigh, North Carolina, and beat that ass and advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals. The Carolina Hurricanes had been 0-3, 0-4, 0-5 in the postseason at Madison Square Garden. That ended last night. Last night, the Carolina Hurricanes, a veteran team, a team that's had postseason success, but not enough. Losing in the conference finals a year ago to the Panthers, not enough. Losing in the second round a year before that, not enough. But they've been there. One thing they hadn't been able to do was win at Madison Square Garden. It's kind of like when you're drinking one night and you kind of break the seal by finally going to the bathroom, and then it just all comes out. What would worry me is that last night, down 1-0 in the third period, the Carolina Hurricanes broke their seal. That's the other warning sign. And let me give you another one. And I'm going to read you a quote. You're the athlete. You tell me. I don't like what Chris Kreider said after the game. I got to be honest. I think he is the longest tenured Ranger. He's got to be. Chris Kreider, who's been around forever, made a comment last night that someone calling this radio station would make, and that's fine. Maybe it's something I would even say. But I don't want this from one of my best players. I don't want this. I don't want to hear it. This makes me nervous. And I'm going to read it to you, and you tell me if I'm over-exaggerating.
Listening.
Quote, if you told me we'd be up 3-2 against the second-best team in the league with an opportunity to close it out, it's a pretty good spot to be in. So just go down there, be better, be more detailed, work for each other, and find a way to win a game. I don't like that first part.
Why?
I don't like it. Because if you told me we're up 3-2, you're up 3-0. Like, we can't forget that. Yes. We can't ignore that you were up 3-0. You can't just make us delete that from our mind.
I'll defend Chris here.
Go.
Because you can't change what happened in the third period last night. You can't change losing a tight one in Game 4. Like, you can't change those things. And so the only thing you can do is reassess your perspective. Like, the only thing you could do is recalculate how you get that next win. And so if you're Chris Kreider, you're rationalizing. Even if it sounds ludicrous or stupid or defeatist, you rationalize it because it's the only way to keep yourself from getting stuck on Game 5 and then Game 4. Like, you have to just flush those things.
Right.
You have to wash them away. And so you rationalize in stupid ways that sound ridiculous to the outside, but make you refocus on what's happening right in front of you. And the only thing they can control right now is Game 6. And so he's talking his way into a reason to be optimistic despite two games that you should be very pessimistic about because of how they lost.
It just feels like, hey, let me change what's happened. Look, the Rangers
are changing the narrative. That's what you do.
Just say we got to play better, which clearly they do. That third period, I haven't watched every period of Rangers hockey, but I've watched a decent amount. That's the worst period of hockey they've played all season long. Is that not a fair assessment?
No, you're right.
That's the worst piece of crap hockey we've seen them play all season long. And I got to hear after the game, and I heard this from Vincent Trocheck, who, by the way, is awesome. I love Vinny Trocheck, except when I look at his face. He looks like a guy I wouldn't like. No, I'm just kidding. He looks like a guy I would want to hang out with, Vinny Trocheck. And he's been clutch, and he's been one of their best players. And he gave they wanted it more line. Well, let me ask Vincent Trocheck and everyone else on the New York Rangers a damn simple question that 18,000 people at Madison Square Garden also want to know from last night. How can you be 20 minutes away from the Eastern Conference Finals and have your opponent want it more? How is that possible? So now just tell me, Evan, he was just giving you a cliche. Maybe it was just a cliche.
It was.
But seriously? They wanted it more?
It was a cliche.
Okay.
Now, that's something you don't say because you're just basically saying, without saying it, we didn't care.
Which is obviously not the case.
Of course it's not.
I think you're just trying
that's what you hear.
Well, that's what I hear. It's explaining away crap hockey. That's what it's explaining away. They wanted it more?
Yeah, that's not a good one. I can't defend that one.
Now,
I can't defend that one at all.
With all of that said, and most of what we said here, some of it are facts, some of it are opinions, but a lot of it's facts. The Rangers being outshot basically in the last 15 periods they've played, fact. Even strength Carolina advantage, fact. The Rangers power play being limped since Trocheck's game winner, fact. The Rangers having a recent history of collapses, that's a fact too. I don't even know if you can argue that. The other thing, though, that would also scare me is Carolina's 1 for 20 with the man advantage. We just pointed that out. Their one power play goal came from the former Ranger Shea at the end of game number 4. Good for him. Don't you think that eventually a power play that's been as lethal as the Canes have been throughout the regular season is going to find a way to get it going? Don't you think that, like law of averages, they're 1 for 20? Do we think, and look, all the Rangers need is one more game where they don't get the power play going. Yeah. Do we think it's going to remain this limp for another game or two?
I'm going to assume yes, because it's been 5 games.
I'm saying, but look, the Ranger power play was red hot till it wasn't.
Right, but at least it was hot at one point. It's been 5 games for the Carolina Hurricanes. So there's something that the Rangers are doing, whether it's Shesterkin being fantastic or just the philosophy, because there's so many times that the Carolina Hurricanes are losing possession, right? And the Rangers have possession, so it just kills time. And so part of it is, it's weird, because when we talk about penalty kills, we're talking about playing great defense. It's really been some pretty good offense, including some of these shorthanded goals, one of which we mentioned from Trouba last night. I think
the one positive thing this guy's done in this series, other than commit dumb penalties.
But I think that's been their philosophy. It's like, let's go on the offensive, and it's forced the Hurricanes to be off of their power play game, so to speak, and they've gotten away with it. So you can't change it now. Like, what are you going to do? Like, you have to keep the same philosophy, and it's worked for the Rangers. All of this is less my concern. More my concern is the DNA. You mentioned it about this team. They've collapsed, and the only way to change that narrative about them is to not collapse.
Blowing a 2-0 lead is not blowing a 3-0 lead, but the way the Rangers seasons have ended over the last 2 years, we got to call it like it is, especially with more context. They collapsed. So the real question is, are we in the midst of something historic? Are we in the midst of Yankees Red Sox 2.0? Are we in the midst of Sharks Kings from 2014, or Flyers Bruins from 2010, or Islanders Penguins from 1975? Or is this a blip on the road to a Stanley Cup? Last night, and I wasn't in the building, but I was watching on TV, that was as quiet and as nervous as you'll ever hear Madison Square Garden.
It was loud at the beginning.
At the beginning.
It was loud at the beginning.
Not that third period.
Yeah.
It was as quiet,
honestly,
and as scared as you'll ever hear it, maybe until about 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter tonight.
Stop.
I'm just kidding.
I was not there, obviously, either. I think that's just, you're stunned into silence.
Yes, you are. I think that is a great description of it. There is a lot of stunned Ranger fans. But here's the bottom line. Ranger fans, as you sit here on this Tuesday with 48 hours to stew and 48 hours to rest up before we get to Thursday night, everything is still in front of you. What you thought 4 days ago, this is a Stanley Cup team, it's what I thought 4 days ago. It's what Beningo thought 4 days ago. Did everything change? Are we in the midst of watching a collapse? Or is this a blip on the radar? We'll hear from the Ranger fans. We'll get to the Knicks as the show rolls on as well. And whenever the Met-Philly game is done, we'll give you thoughts on the state of the New York Mets. They suffered their worst loss of the season last night. Plus, we got another edition of Posted and Toasted coming up right at 3:30. The phone number to speak to us, 877-337-6666.